Hello everyone, it is B with the B Code and welcome back to my channel. As you can see from the title, this is how to vet a potential mate. This video is going to cover some very important topics on how to vet a mate. There is this thing going around YouTube saying that a mate cannot be vetted, or a person cannot be vetted. And that is just simply not true, because it is done all the time. It is done when you are going to go into the military. It is done when you are going to work for the police department, the FBI, the CIA. It is done when you are applying for employment. These are all the places, and not all of them, but the majority of the places that vetting is done. So when we're talking about vetting a potential mate, we want to first look at what the definition of vetting is. So you know how I like to do it. Whenever there's a big question going around, I always like to define so that we know exactly what we are talking about, exactly what we are getting into, and so that we aren't using 100 different definitions of something. So vetting is the process of performing a background check on someone before offering them employment. And I took the liberty of adding a relationship in here. Conferring an award or doing fact checking prior to making any decision. In addition, in intelligence gathering, assets are vetted to determine their usefulness. So we're going to take these topics right here in the definition of vetting. We're going to look at background check. We're going to look at intelligence, because we want to kind of go over these topics. Oh, and we're also going to look at gathering the assets in order to determine their usefulness. So let's just do like this. When you're doing a background check on someone, you basically know that there are a lot of different entities that you can use in order to do a background check. You can also talk to the potential mate that you are going to vet and ask them questions and different things like that. See, one of the issues is that when we're getting into these relationships, the number one question is, are you looking for a lifelong partner? Are you looking for a short-term relationship? Or are you looking for a marriage? In any case, in all three of those scenarios, you want to be vetting the person that you are having in your life, in your circle, around your family, around your children. So we're going to start with background check. We're going to look at some things that it would take in order to do a background check, because a background check doesn't just simply mean a criminal history. It entails a lot of things. And so we're going to look at some of those things. Now, before we get into that, let's look at these three things. Number one, vetting starts with a set of standards that you have according to what you want and need in your life. Number two, vetting ends with a set of standards that you do not want in your life. And number three, which is most important, vetting takes time. So remember, we're looking at these three scenarios of a relationship, a marriage, or a lifelong partner, because they're all three different things. So when you're looking at your set of standards, what are your standards for the mate that you're looking for? What type of situation are you looking for? There's all different types of situations, and this will be your standards will be according to the type of situation that you're looking to or looking for. And vetting ends with a set of standards that you do not want in your life. So after you vet this person, it could be, boom, number one. That is on the that's not the standard I'm looking for list. So immediately you're disqualified. And one of the problems that we have is that we don't know when we should just stop the game or stop the interview or stop the thoughts of having this person as a mate. We look at, oh, they're beautiful, they're handsome, they got a nice body, they got some good hair, they got a good job, they got a lot of money. We're looking at a lot of superficial things that don't dig deep enough into the type of person that we are dealing with. So when you vet a person by a set of standards that you've created and you stick to those standards, you will find probably a quality mate or the best mate out of the few people that you might be vetting. So what goes along with the set of standards that you're looking for also goes with a set of standards for a person that you're not looking for. So you could say, hey, I'm a bachelor degree person, and the standards that I'm looking for is a bachelor's degree person. And if they do not have a bachelor's degree, that immediately disqualifies them because that's on my set of standards that I'm not looking for. I'm not looking for somebody that doesn't have a bachelor's degree. So you need to have two sets of standards so that you can be completely clear as far as what you're looking for in terms of a partner. So number 3, vetting takes time. You are not going to be able to vet a person in 3 months. You're not going to be able to vet a person in 6 months. You might not even be able to vet a person in 1 year. And so this is where, for men and women, the courtship comes in. You have to have, or you have to set some standards on how long you intend on courting this person, and according to how long it's going to take to vet this person. Sometimes, of course, we all know that we can't completely vet a person. We can vet them and they meet all our standards, and they don't have any standards that we aren't looking for, but somewhere along the lines, some things start to rear their ugly heads. And this is when we don't know how to quit while we're ahead. So let's go ahead and jump into the background check. So if you're looking for a relationship, a partnership, a marriage, or you can even just do this when you're looking for friends, you want to know what their family history is. Is there domestic violence in their family history? If their mother and father were married and together, or just together for a lengthy amount of time, raised you to adulthood, was there domestic violence? Did your father abuse your mother? Did your mother abuse your father? Those things are important because that type of stuff is passed down to the kids. Whether the kids are hit or not, it's something that is seen, it's something that is instilled in them, and it shows them that that is the way to handle anger. Childhood abuse. Were they abused as a child? Because 9 times out of 10, if a person was abused as a child, like I just said, that has been instilled in them as a way to handle anger when it comes to someone else. Adulthood abuse. Did your parents or parent continue to abuse you into adulthood? Because some parents are just abusive forever. When you become an adult, they might not be able to put their hands on you anymore, but they're damn sure able to continue to verbally abuse you, put you down, infringe on your self-esteem, and just make you mentally feel like you're nothing. So, is the person or did they suffer adulthood abuse? Family stability. What was the family stability like? Did they move around a lot? Did they, move from apartment to apartment, house to house, state to state? What was going on in their family stability? Were the finances stable? Did they always have everything that they needed? Did they starve? Were they hungry? Were they constantly at grandma's house? Or, did they live with people? What was the family stability? This is potentially going to tell you a lot about the person that you are looking to have as a mate. Okay, now stability of the potential mate, their job and their home. So, as an adult, what's their profession? What's their job? You don't necessarily have to have a career, but say, for example, if you are working at McDonald's, how long have you been working at McDonald's? If you are a CNA, how long have you been a CNA? If you are a secretary, how long have you been on your job as a secretary? These things matter. And their home life. Now, sometimes your job, you may not have been on your job for umpteenth years, but you've kept a job. You are consistently employable. Like I always say, sometimes the job you were at just didn't agree with you. Sometimes jobs change directions. Sometimes jobs change their standards. Sometimes people that they hire you don't necessarily agree with, and it just makes things, horrific for you, and you might have to go and find that other job. But are you consistently employable? And then that person's home life, are they stable? Are they able to keep a place? Are they able to live out a lease? Are they rentable? Do they have evictions? Do they have a history of just leaving places, abandoning, their homes? This is going to tell you a lot about that person you are dealing with. And this type of thing takes time. Do they have a history of homelessness? Are they currently homeless? Living with a friend, you're homeless. Living in a shelter, you're homeless. Living with your auntie, you're homeless. Living with your mother, I don't consider that to be homeless because that's your home. That's where you originated from. That's where you've lived all your life. Home with your parents or with your mom or with your dad. You're not homeless. You're at home, right? Do does that person move around a lot? Are they living with their auntie and then living with a girlfriend and then living with their brother and then living with their friend and then living with another girlfriend? Are they going from girlfriend to girlfriend? Do they have their own home? Do they know how to rent? Can they get their own place? Can they keep their own place? That is going to tell you a lot about a person, because they're derelicts if they can't maintain their own home. um Veteran status. Veteran status is very important, and because we know that a lot of veterans suffer from PTSD. We know that they've dealt with a lot of horrific things and horrific scenarios, in the Army, in the Navy, in the Air Force. We know these things. So what is their veteran status? Because all of this on this first list is going to go towards their mental stability as a person. Just basic mental stability. Family history of DV, child abuse, adulthood abuse, family stability, their job and home, history of homelessness, veteran status. This is all going to go towards their mental status and how their brain functions out here in society, as well as inside of a home that they're residing in. So then when we go over here to this next list, criminal history. Is there domestic violence in their criminal history? Have they been, charged with domestic violence on a person? That is very, very important. We all basically know that just the basic criminal history is important. Theft, assault, gun issues, drug issues, all that. Childhood criminal history. Do they have a childhood criminal history? Were they in juvenile hall? Did they, like to break into people's homes? Did they like to steal cars? Did they like to break into cars? And these men and these women, they'll tell you, they'll readily tell you this stuff because it's supposed to give them a certain status in society or in the hood. So they'll give that to you. Prison record. Have they been to prison? How long? How many times? This is going to tell you a lot about that person. Are they able to maintain their freedom? Are they able to, learn from their mistakes? Are they able to stop committing crimes? Okay? Willingness to communicate with the police for you or against you, which means if someone assaults you or someone does some criminal act to you, is it okay with them that you notify the police, which you always should? Also, will they call the police on you? Right? So, hopefully you have your shit together to where nobody is going to be having to call the police on you or go against you, because you're the one that, if you're vetting someone, then hopefully you have your shit together, and that would be not an issue. But however, are they a police person? You understand what I'm saying? Drug use. What kind and how long? You see, for me, all illicit drug use is not good. When we're speaking in terms of marijuana, medicinal use, something that's prescribed by a doctor, and usually it's for terminally ill patients in order to help them eat so that they don't starve themselves to death. They get to live some type of life, while they're in a terminal process. They can be comfortable, they can eat, and, different things like that. So that's a different story. Pain issues, you've had a surgery, you have chronic back pain, you have chronic knee pain. People have some issues to where it requires them to take medicine, but as long as the medicine is prescribed to them, but then sometimes you can run into issues there. So, some other drugs that we don't want to have a potential mate using or abusing are pills and meth and, different forms of marijuana and, drugs that require injection and different things like that. You got to know all this stuff, because this is going to also speak to the person's mental stability, their mental health. And this is one of the number one things that you always want to be vetting for, is mental health, mental stability. If the person does not have good mental health, good mental hygiene, and good mental stability, you might as well cut your losses, because you're going to have a very, very difficult time with them in life. So let's go to our next section. So once you've, done your background check, you may have done an independent background check on the criminal record. However, the family history and stuff, you're going to have to That's going to have to be told to you. That's going to have to come from time with the person. It's gonna have to come, it's gonna have to show in their behaviors, because a person, they can keep their hands to themselves, but only for so long. So intelligence gathering to check if the information is fact and not fiction, which means you're gonna have that documentation. So here's the thing: when you're vetting someone, they're going to have to be an open book. They're going to have to want to give you this information and give you truthful information. There are some things that I don't advise people to disclose, as long as they have it under control and have had it under control for a long, long time. Now, I'm not going to go into that because that's a totally different video. However, you can get documentation on their background. You can get documentation on their veteran status. You can get documentation on all of these different things. You can also interview family and friends. And it's not like, okay, sit down here across from me and I'm just going to grill you and ask you questions about this potential mate. No, these things occur if they have long-term friends, or if they have friends that they've been knowing 6 months or more. When you guys are out and you're telling your friendship stories or your childhood stories, you need to be listening. You need to be listening to what's going on. I can tell you this: if there is an ex-wife, if there's an ex-girlfriend, don't be so quick to cut them, because they have some valuable information that you could potentially, put inside of this intelligence bag, put inside your intelligence bag, to really see, a person's perspective of this potential mate. So this is why I'm saying vetting a person takes long. It's a lengthy process. And if you're going to take the time to do this, you have to just have a basic idea of this person being a good person, because you don't want to waste your time on somebody that is just X'd out. I mean, come on. Like I said, it's all in what you are looking for. So, for example, let me see. How can I put this? Are you looking for a person that has no criminal record? If as soon as you meet that person, or you go on a couple of dates with that person and you start to say, hey, have you ever been convicted of a crime? And they say, yeah, no, goodbye, see you later. You know what I'm saying? Hey, did your mom beat your dad, or did your dad beat your mom? Yeah, goodbye. It's not saying that people can't come through that, and that sometimes that stuff is not passed down to them. But the question is, do you want to take that chance? You know what I'm saying? You might want to friend zone them, and then you might not. You might want to just, social friend zone them. You might just want to maybe go hang out, have a couple of drinks with them sometimes, but you don't want to just let them in your house spending the night and all these different things, because you never know what someone's intentions are. But like I said, if a person is meeting those standards that you do not want, whatever they may be, you should hang it up. You should immediately just disqualify them from being a potential mate. So, if we look at that story with the young lady that got pregnant by the married football player, you know what I'm saying? How he was having some issues with his wife's father, trying to kick his door in and things like that. That's a no. That should be a no. right there, because there's violence there already. There's not a potential for violence. There's violence there already. So if we look at that person, that other football player that went into his girlfriend's house and, had her all thrown all over the floor while the baby was sitting on the couch, that's a no. There's violence there. There's domestic violence there. So why would you even be considering having that person as a mate? Their money shouldn't matter. Their job status shouldn't matter because they're an abuser. It's been proven, it's been seen. So why would you, as a woman, even think about having that person as a potential mate? Oh, well, it was, maybe it was her. Maybe he just needs a different type of female. No, bullshit. No, 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 no. Okay? So, in conclusion, after gathering and reviewing all of the information presented to you, does this meet the standards that you have set, or meets the standards that you have not set? And when I say the standards you have not set, I mean those standards that disqualify them. Like, do they have a criminal record? you know do they have a history of domestic violence? You have to have two lists, and where on the list do they fall? If they have one of those qualities on that do not date list, or disqualify list, you need to just go ahead and disqualify them, and be done with it. Because remember, you are also it's a daily battle to maintain your own mental health stability. It's a daily battle to maintain your own home and your own job status and just your own social construct, just so that you can, function in this society day to day. And if you have a person that has problems and they're in your life and in your home, it's going to make doing those things all the more difficult. All right. So, I mean, yeah, you have to review this information. If you've gathered it, and say, for example, they meet all of your standards, okay? Now you have to gather intelligence to make sure what they're saying and what you're seeing matches. And then also, if what they're saying and what you're seeing matches, now you have to give it some more time to see whether or not they are consistent. And consistency is not 6 months. Consistency is not a year. Consistency to me is a year or more. Or I would say more than a year. Maybe 2 years and up is a telltale sign of consistency. So, like I said, if issues like domestic violence, drug use, and long-standing loss of finances occurs, you should, as soon as possible, dismiss this person from your life, period. Okay? It is not about how beautiful they are. It is not about how much money they have. It's not about, oh, they only use marijuana. Because if you're looking for a drug-free person and they use drugs, they're disqualified, right? Because remember, you've set some standards. Now, if drug use is okay because you smoke weed, okay, then fine, they go on your meet the standard list. um Long-standing loss of finances. What I'm saying is that, nobody keeps a job forever, or, not many people keep a job forever. But what is their ability to get a job? Are they hireable? Are they consistently hireable? Or when they lose their job, are they just don't have a job? They don't get out there and pound that pavement. They don't, a job loss sometimes just destroys a person's self-esteem, destroys their mental stability. It just makes them into something that first met your standards and now doesn't meet your standards. So You know, if your person is having an issue of finding a job, and I would say at least 6 months or more, give them a good 6 months to, get back on their feet, which it shouldn't take that long. But after 6 months, if they're not getting if they're not getting, back on their feet, then you should be making preparations to, you know exit stage left. Now, sometimes you don't have to, I mean, that same day, oh my God, it's been 6 months, goodbye. No, you can, just say, hey, it's been 6 months. This person hasn't found a job. Okay, while I'm making preparations to go, let's see what happens. And within the next 6 months, you should be at least prepared to go if they still haven't a job. If they still don't have a job, that's a long-standing loss of finances, and it's going to make it all the more difficult for you in order to take care of yourself and a grown adult and possibly some children and a household and bills. You might have to maintain 2 cars, 2 insurances, gas in 2 cars. It just makes life just very, very difficult. And I'm sorry, but what's love got to do with it sometimes in some instances? So, we just have to make sure that, we're staying in reality. We're staying abreast of the standards that we've set, and making sure that the mate that we chose continues to meet those standards. So sometimes you have to do a reassessment. Now, let me see, it's been about a year. Let me go ahead and reassess this person and reassess the situation and make sure that they're still, meeting my standards. Because sometimes we just, we're so in love, or we're so infatuated, or, this person could have so much money. They could be, good in bed. They can have all these other qualities that really don't even matter when it comes to your mental stability and your health. So anyway, I'm not setting a vetting standard. I'm just putting out here that people can be vetted. And as long as you have a set of standards that a person needs to meet, and you stick to those standards, irregardless of other qualities that this person may have that are not even on your list, it's irrelevant. However, you can't just say, oh, a person can't be vetted, because if we look at the reality of every situation, people are vetted. So a guy will say, no, I don't date dark chicks. That's vetting. Okay, so I don't date chicks that are shorter than 5'4". That's vetting. I don't date a chick that wears weaves. That's vetting. I don't date a chick that wears makeup. That's vetting. But those are superficial things. However, it's still vetting. So if we started to vet people on what's truly important, people would have to step their game up. People would have to check on their mental health. People would have to keep their damn jobs. People would have to quit using drugs. People would have to, maintain a prison-free life. They may have to maintain 7 or more years of not being convicted of a crime in order to meet somebody's standard. So like I said, this is only an example. So like I just said, we could take a person's criminal record, for example. We can say, hey, I know that, in blah blah community, some people just can't avoid a criminal history. So let's say a standard would be, you have to be 7 years free, 7 years or more free of being convicted of a crime. That's a standard. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't mean you have to disqualify a person because they have a criminal record. We can look at veterans, for example. We can say, oh, he's a vet. However, how is his mental stability? Does he suffer from PTSD? Does he have his PTSD under control? Does he go to all his doctor's visits? Do he take his medications correctly? You know, how is this person maintaining their life? That could be a standard. He can be a vet, but he just can't be abusive. He can't be suffering from PTSD and tripping out in the house. You know what I'm saying? So what is your standard for that type of person? Because some people like veterans. You know what I'm saying? Some people, there's somebody for everybody. It's just a matter of what's what's behind the door. What's behind door number 1, what's behind door number 2, what's behind door number 3. So I mean, I can keep going on and on and on and on. Hopefully you guys get the basic idea that we vet people every day that we come in contact with. We vet people without them even knowing it. So we're out at the grocery store and we see a guy that's looking at us. We're looking at them like, he's too short for me. You just vetted him. You know what I'm saying? He can like a girl, and he can look inside of her basket and be like, ain't no meat in there. I need meat. You just vetted her. So yes, people can be vetted. Okay, I'm going to end my video here, and hopefully you guys have a beautiful time of vetting your potential mates. And also, it doesn't mean that, like I said, you can't reassess. Set some standards and reassess. This relationship might not be working out, so you might want to say, hey, let me sit down here and get some standards, and so to make sure that I can get myself out of this situation. And you let that person know, hey, listen, I've set a set of standards, and as of right now, you aren't meeting those, so we're going to have to call it quits. You can't be afraid to let go. Do not be afraid to let go, especially if it means mental stability for you, because without your mental health, you're basically nothing.